In our passage, we see a covenantal meal. The meal is had on a heap of witness by a pillar of witness. The heap of witness is a pile of stones, of rocks in a land called Gilead, which means rocky region, with a giant pillar next to it. There's all this rock imagery, heavy rock imagery, and this meal, this covenantal meal in the midst of it. In Joshua 22, after all the land is conquered, the tribes of Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh, they settle in Gilead across from the Jordan River. So they're on the east side of the Jordan River, sometimes called the Transjordanian tribes. So if you have, you have the Jordan River here. These three tribes are on the east side and everybody else is on the west side. When they're finished conquering, helping their brother tribes with this military conquest on the west, Joshua sends them back to Gilead. And once they're there, they set up an altar. And word gets back to the rest of the tribes that they set up this altar. And the rest of Israel is incensed. They're incredibly upset that this has been done. So upset that they plan to go to war against them for doing this. They're on the war path. Well, why is this? Why are they upset? Anyone know? They've just come out of their wilderness wanderings, and they've had these moments of worshiping wrongly that God has severely punished them for. And so Israel is very sensitive to people worshiping wrongly. Now, prior to the Exodus, it was okay to set up altars and to sacrifice. Noah does this, and Jacob does this. We see this. But after the Exodus, what changes? Where are you supposed to sacrifice?
Temple.
That's right, at the tabernacle. And there's a Levitical priesthood, and those are the people who sacrifice now. And so Israel hears that they set up an altar, and they're like, you can't do this. God has told us not to do this. And does anybody know who leads this Israelite army? All the other tribes, they come against Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben.
No. Moses?
It's Eleazar, it's Phinehas, son of Eleazar. And what did Phinehas do?
Speared the guy in the bull.
Right, he stops the wrong worship at Peor. And so we see Israel is very intense about worshiping rightly. And so they're ready for war, and they ask Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, why did you make this altar? What are you thinking? Are you out of your mind? Don't you remember what happened with Achan when he took the dedicated things to Jericho and we all got slaughtered at Ai? Don't you remember what happened at Peor? They bring these examples up. They bring them up. They're like, what are you doing? Hey, and this is what they say. They say, we made it out of fear. And what are they afraid of? They're afraid that their children, both their children, Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, and the children of the other tribes are going to forget that they worship the same God as all the other tribes because they're on the other side of the Jordan. So they want to set up this altar. They call it an altar of witness, not to make blood sacrifices on, but to say, we still worship the same God as you. And we sacrifice at the tabernacle just like you do. We don't want to set up a blood sacrifice here. We're not taking the Levitical prerogatives into our hands. We want this to be a witness that we and our children are going to worship the true God. And so they said, okay, that's fine. And the war was averted. But it was a pillar of witness, a heap of witness set up, or an altar of witness similar to our passage. But there's a difference. In our passage in Genesis, this altar, this heap of witness was set up to divide the wicked from the righteous. It was a boundary marker saying, you are that way and we are this way. But right in Gilead later in Joshua, this altar of witness is set up not for the purpose of dividing, but for uniting, saying we are part of what you do. And we have this now. We have altars of witness set up all across the world saying that we We're on the other side of the Jordan, but we worship the God of Israel. At all of these altars of witness, we're not doing blood sacrifices here, but we are saying we worship the God of Israel. And this is what the mound of witness in our passage, I think, anticipates what's happening in Joshua. And then I think what is happening in Joshua anticipates what happens in the new covenant. And we also have this heap of witness. It looks like an altar, right? What's a mound of rocks that it looks like an altar, and they have a meal on it. It's pretty remarkable imagery. So just let's see here. That altar being composed of rocks. Oh yeah, it's the witnesses. It's the brothers. The brothers are witnesses, and they're these rocks that are building up this altar, which I think also anticipate the church. And we are stones that are being built up into this house, into this altar, where we offer ourselves as living sacrifices through Christ and his once and for all sacrifice. And a meal is eaten together. So all of these aspects are coming together, as Augustine would say, in the total Christ. So all of these things happen here at this altar of witness. So come and welcome to Jesus Christ.